Here we see the wild gamer in its natural habitat, a hand stocked full of cards. Let's take a closer look. We see that the gamer is just one blue short of the win. Maybe they didn't need those extra lands, eh?
So, EDH has been around for a long time. Since the format's inception in the 1990s, card quality has improved a tad. It's now to the point where cards that are being printed specifically for Commander are actually getting banned. Please tell me, why do people insist on playing so much junk in their decks? Like, some of the cards at the top of EDH rack are just so bad it's actually painful. Today, we'll cover what are the most popular cards that are holding your decks back, and what should you do with all of this free space you're going to find in your decks. My name's Colin. I've just come back to Magic after a 6-year break. It's actually crazy how many cards people are still playing that I recognise from 6 years ago, and they weren't even good then. On the channel, we cover the science behind EDH deck building. So, if that's what you're into, please do like, subscribe, and share this with that guy who just will not cut Reliquary Tower. We all know one. Before we do get into that, we have to first understand why people are playing these cards in the first place. I think that there are 3 reasons why people play bad cards. Firstly is pet cards. These are cards that you just run because you like them. You know they're bad, but you want to run them anyway. Now, that's totally fine. It's actually a good reason, and I've got nothing to say about it. The second reason is that you're a Salt Lord. We've all seen that guy who misses his 3rd land drop for a couple of turns. Another unlucky game, he says. How many lands do you play? Well, 30, but I play loads of ramp and draw. If you do the math, then technically each ramp spell is worth half a land, and a cantrip is pretty much a land in itself. So adding all of that up, I probably play more lands than you. I just got unlucky this game. Enough said. Like Sisyphus, they are doomed to push their boulder for all of eternity. Now, the third, and probably most common reason, is that you don't know any better. Newer players will often end up with a lot of chaff gumming up their decks. To be honest, it's not really their fault. Most people when starting out will just buy a precon. It's a lot easier than trying to deal with learning the rules of Magic while also building a deck. Precons will often become like a template for how you should build your deck, and it makes total sense. When the game designers build you a deck, that's how decks should be built, right? No. Now, I agree that wizards shouldn't like power up precons to insane levels, but how can you excuse this? The Blight Curse precon, arguably one of the coolest precons they've ever built, is running Commander Sphere. Commander Sphere is actually run in 12% of all Commander decks over the last 2 years, and worst of all, this one's green. Like, genuinely, Commander Sphere is such a bad card, I don't get why it's still being played. Maybe 10 years ago, when it was first made, it was alright, but I mean, it's honestly awful. I was making this video, and I noticed one of my decks actually plays Commander Sphere. I just had a copy lying around, so I was like, well, I might as well chuck it in. As soon as I realised that, I went straight to the deck, cut it immediately, for a basic land. Literally, that's how bad this card is. But why is it so bad? Well, in green especially, it has 0 redeeming qualities at all. The going rate for ramping an untapped land is 2 mana, and that's just miles better. You're not going to get blown out by board wipes, and I dare say you don't need reminding, but it costs 1 less mana. What if we're not in green though? Wayfarer's Bauble is a pretty direct comparison. It costs 3 mana and produces 1, but it also lets you ramp into a 4 mana commander a turn early. But for some insane reason, it's only played in 7% of decks. Like, the card is strictly better and does not get played. Or you could just run Sad Robot, another card on a similar level. You get to keep the ramp, get the card draw, and the ramp to land, so it will stick around through board wipes. I digress. The point is that there are so many ways to ramp, 3 mana rocks are just not the one. Okay, these next 2 do have a little bit more nuance to them. It's Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, which are played in 43% and 27% of EDH decks respectively. Before I start though, there are actually valid reasons to play these cards. For example, I'm building a lands-themed deck for a challenge with my friends. Unfortunately, the budget is $200, and so I can't afford lands. Instead, I'm building a combo deck with Jadzi, something like that. Or rather, the backside, Journey to the Oracle. In this deck, it's essential to be accelerating your ramp, but you also need that critical mass of lands in your hand when you play Journey to the Oracle. For this instance, the extra value is actually worth the extra 1 mana. So, when are these cards bad then? Well, in any deck with a 4 mana commander, I mean, you can barely consider these ramp. They don't actually accelerate you towards your commander, and I mean, the extra land to hand is pretty irrelevant. You could just play draw spells. But what if we're playing the long game? Maybe you like the efficiency of a 2-for-1 ramp spell. Well, my friend, let me introduce you to Exploding Vegetables. Sorry, literally any 4 mana ramp spell under the sun. These are great. They're literally 2-for-1s, and they put both lands into play, meaning you're actually investing in the long run for the minuscule cost of 1 extra mana, which, let's be honest, you could have just ramped into anyway if you weren't playing these abominations. But at least you've got 2 more lands in hand, right? These are super easy cuts. Depending on the style of your deck, you can either cut them for cheaper, more efficient ramp, like a Rampant Growth or a Farseek, or go a bit bigger and go for 4 mana ramp like Skyshroud Claim, or just mix and match as suits. Now, for the card we started off the video with, Reliquary Tower. This is in a whopping 30% of all commander decks built in the last 2 years. Now, I won't spend too long here, as I realise it's been covered a lot. If you are in the privileged position of having more than 7 cards in hand, is it really that bad to discard 1 or 2 down to hand size? Not really. But what if you have 20 cards in hand? That's a lot more to discard. yeah, you should have just won that turn, sorry. Maybe if you weren't faffing about with all of that colourless mana, you could have actually cast some of the spells in your hand and won. But at least it's only played in blue decks. Oh my days, it's played in 9% of Krenko decks. EDH Rec is here to take us all. Right, this one kind of goes hand in hand. It's Thought Vessel, played in 16% of EDH decks. I have the same issue here as I did with Reliquary Tower, but this one also gets hit by Vandal Blast and Meltdown. Just play actual lands. This is where I spend time talking about Temple of the False God, but it doesn't even deserve that. Like, it doesn't even tap for mana. Enough said. Right, that is enough about mana. If you're tuned into deck building, hopefully you knew about all of those. These last 2 are a bit more insidious though. Firstly is Arcane Denial, played in 20% of blue decks. On the surface, it's a 2 mana counterspell. Great. And it draws you a card. Unbelievable. Someone stop this guy. However, it comes at a cost. The owner of the countered spell draws 2 cards. Why is this bad? I mean, you get to draw as well. There are generally 2 good uses for interaction, to either secure your own win or stop opposing wins. In the first case, this card's fine. Your opponents won't get to draw if they're dead. But if that's the case, please tell me why you aren't playing Dispel or Negate instead. Or if you're really struggling, here's a few more options. The real issue with Arcane Denial comes during the second use case. If your opponent is attempting a win and you counter it, then what is their next plan? Well, they've got to dig for more gas. What have you just helped them do? Dig for more gas. When your opponent is in a strong enough position to actually make spending your counter magic worth it, then the last thing you want them to do is draw 2 more cards. Finally, last but not least, we have Putrefy, played in 16% of Golgari decks. Now, it's a fine removal spell, but it's just that, fine. When playing black and green, you have access to a whole host of the most powerful removal spells ever printed. Creatures, no problem. Artifacts and enchantments, not a worry. Lands even, all good. Even wild cards, like Beast Within or Assassin's Trophy. When you have access to this vast plethora of pushed removal spells, this overflowing oasis of death and destruction, why would you ever choose to run Putrefy? In today's Magic, 3 mana to remove a single thing is just a bit steep. Putrefy can only remove 2 different permanent types, neither of which are hard in Golgari, When it was first printed, it was alright, but that was before the rate of killing a creature dropped more than that average house price during the Great Depression. Trust me, just get this card out of your deck. We also now have some discordance. Come and accord your concord in the Discord with some discourse.